people of this state
do not yield
their sovereignty
to the agencies
which serve them.
the people. The delegating authority
do not give their
Public servants
the right
to decide
what is good for the people
to know and what is
Not good.
for them to know. The people
assist
on remaining informed
so that they may
retain control over
the instruments
they have created.
You've got the fox guarding the hen house.
Maybe this is a little conspiracy going around government officials, that they've all read the same playbook or drunk the same Kool-Aid.
Article 1, Section 1, the very first section of our state constitution, talks about the fact that the people have the political power. All political power is inherent in the people, and governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed and are established to protect and maintain individual rights. And if we are to be able to exercise that sovereignty, our control over the government, then we must have access to all of the same information that those in government have. Otherwise, we simply cannot know if they are doing their jobs properly and if they are acting in the people's interest rather than their own interests.
I don't actually believe that the court system effectively resolves compliance in a prompt manner, which is what the intent of the Public Records Act is all about, prompt disclosure. And if you can look no farther than the Yusufian versus King County, a case that has been going up and down to the Supreme Court for over 10 years. And you talk to Mr. Yusufian, who's a law-abiding citizen who owned a hotel, was dependent on his hotel revenues from the kingdom, had not submitted record requests prior to that. He was not a parmely, and he'll tell you that things just spun out of control, and it ended up in litigation. He'll say that he never got all of his records that he requested, but after all said and done, King County, I think, is going to be paying close to $1 million, if not over that, and that probably doesn't include their own legal costs. The courts, in my opinion, are not the best venue for ensuring prompt disclosure of public records. City of Mesa, if you know about that case, they lost at the Court of Appeals, and their combined penalties, attorney fees, and costs that they have to pay to Ms. Zink, who was the former mayor of Mesa, the amount, the total, exceeds their annual budget. And they turned to their insurer and said, hey, are you going to cover this? And the insurer said, heck no, we're not covering this, you're on your own. Mesa is now considering bankruptcy. This will be a first for the state of Washington, where a public requester, a single public record requester, may lead to the bankruptcy of a small city. So we have to look at these issues. We have to study them. I don't know if we can come up with a solution, but we have to do the work.
Some of these people challenged their local government, pleaded with them, I am sure at some point you will find them, to get access with reasonable requests to documents and to meetings. The penalties assessed against a city council, for example, for withholding no records or for violating a public meeting where there's a court challenge, the penalties are paid by taxpayers. The defense of the council is paid by taxpayers. A citizen who wants to take the chance and challenge local government that it perceives violating Public Meetings Act, the Local Records Act, has to commit a financial resource of their own to challenge them. That's daunting.
Agency employees of the Washington State Board of Accountancy, the government agency that controls my CPA.
When agency staff at the Washington State Board of Accountancy figured out that I had figured out that they were producing these inexplicable results, they tried to frame me. And when I raised my hand up to the CPA profession and said, hey, the government's trying to frame me, everybody says, yeah, right, Clark, nice try. Everybody in prison has been framed, so, you know, good spin. In order to provide credibility for my allegations of undue influence, I made a series of public records requests for closed investigative files for other CPA discipline matters. The government was not forthcoming with the records requested, so I was forced to sue them 5 times under the Public Records Act. And after I sued them, they retaliated to try to put me out of business, came after me, 2 of my partners and 1 of my employees on bogus, trumped-up charges.
Ed was awarded a rather handsome sum from the Washington Board of Accountancy in November 2009. He claimed the agency was improperly pursuing unwarranted charges against him in retaliation for complaints he had made about how another case had been investigated. He requested tens of thousands of pages of public records.
The documents were finally produced. I was able to, at the end of the day, completely exonerate myself and my business associates. I was able to save my professional license, save the existence of the firm that I started and have worked at for 30 years, and save the jobs of my employees.
Gloria lives here in Stevenson. She has some concerns about what was happening in the county auditor's office and filed a public records request. Eventually, that required some litigation in order to obtain the records that she was entitled to as a matter of law.
I love the Public Records Act. I think Washington has some of the best. I don't know what the other ones. I love it as a litigator because I get to get some free discovery if it involves the government. So it's a powerful tool. I don't think a lot of people understand just how much power you have to get all of these records and how cheap it can be. I sent somebody else to do a public records request that they didn't think was me. They made a public records request. I got everything that I couldn't get directly from them through discovery. So the public records request could be a great tool for a litigator. Gloria's daughter had worked for the county a long time in the auditor's office. Shocked us all when all of a sudden Mike Garbison fired her.
So one of the things I did was get a copy of every office in the courthouse, every department, from 2002. I went through every budget, everybody's budgets, line items, on my table. And everybody's was pretty clear until we got to Garbison's, the auditor's office, and my favorite expression is he was changing funds like you change your underwear. A lot.
The bottom line, and Gloria can emphasize this, the bottom line is that without the Public Records Act, there is no way that Gloria would have been able to uncover what I think is the criminal acts of the auditor. Within a week, we sent the letter, we sent it to the AG, we sent it to the auditor. I know how to use the press. I know when not to use the press. I know when to use the press. I knew I needed to use the press, so we sent copies to the newspapers.
Once those records were revealed, there was a very capable sheriff's office investigation, a referral to the state auditor, a set of findings by the state auditor involving violations of law, a referral to the state attorney general's office, and subsequently the appointment of an independent prosecutor. For her efforts in pursuing the rights that are available to all of us with the tools that are available to all of us regarding records that are owned by all of us. Gloria Howe was the winner of the 2011 American Society of News Editors Local Hero Award. She was nominated for the national award by our coalition after receiving a key award in July of 2010 for her use of the Public Records Act to discover willful and unlawful violations by the Skamania County Auditor.
It hasn't been fun. It's not a Saturday night party. It's been 2 years of misery. But those kinds of things you don't do to people. Enough is enough.
Gloria has spent a fair amount of her own money to ensure that that the difference between right and wrong still matters.